here, as you can see. Our friend Mitchell isn't feeling so hot. Mitchell's our video guy and friend, and so until Mitchell feels better, I'm going to be pushing this iPhone button. Until then, we want to wish Mitchell well. We hope he's being taken care of, and we'll see him soon. Okay, so this week I want to talk about neuroplasticity. It sounds very technical, but it's really not. So I'm going to tell you what it is first, then I'll give you a visual image of it, and then we'll talk about how it can better our lives. All right, so you know how when kids are young, they say, oh, teach kids really young, maybe how to speak a second language or how to learn music or how to pick up the piano or whatever it is. They say teach kids young because their neural pathways haven't completely formed yet in their brains. So a neural pathway is it's like a little highway system in your brain. So when you're really young, the roads are just being built, you know? And so you really have this wonderful opportunity to create so many wonderful pathways in the brain. So that's why, have you ever tried to learn something as an adult and it's a lot harder? People say, man, learning something as an adult is way harder than learning it as a child. It's because once you're an adult, all those highway systems have been formed. They're kind of like locked in. It doesn't mean that they can't change. It just means it takes a lot of effort to change them. So we want to teach our kids all these wonderful things when they're young and when they're absorbing and when we have the ability to create all these beautiful roads for them. Okay, so once we're adults, like I said, the roads get a little more locked in. They get a little more paved. They get a little more kind of like settled in their ways. The routes become predictable. So if I see, I don't know, I'm going to make this up. If I see a woman walking down the road, depending on what she looks like, I'm going to think a thought, and that thought will go from here to here, depending on what neural pathways I formed, like in milliseconds without me even thinking about it because I've had the thought over and over and over again. So I was driving with my friend Ashley the other day, and I was telling her why I listened to Joel Osteen on the radio. And I listened to Joel Osteen because he's incredibly positive, he's incredibly encouraging, and I use that time in the car to really build myself up. And so the very first time I listened to him, and maybe the first few months, it all sounded hokey. But then it started to sink in. And then it really started to take root. And then it really started to make a huge difference on my posture, how I thought about myself, my mood for the day. And I realized, wow, I'm feeding myself all these wonderful, enriching thoughts, and they are making me feel better. And so I'm a huge fan. Channel 128, if you guys have Sirius XM. Okay, and he also has an app, if that works for you. So I was telling her that's why I listened to Joel Osteen, and then we were driving by this really wooded area. And I said, the first time our brain has a thought, especially as adults, it's like we're like chopping down. We have to let's say our brain is a forest and the thought wants to get from here to here. We have to chop down trees and get out of the way of brush and maybe jump over boulders, and the path from here to here is tough. You're gonna get scraped up and maybe bruised up, and it's not gonna be the easiest path for that thought to take. But the more and more and more we have the thought, the easier that pathway gets, the more paved it gets, so to speak. And so we need to realize, number one, that negative thoughts are weakest in the beginning. The very first time you have a negative thought, grab it, slap it out of the way, say, not today. Not today you won't. You are not going to create that pathway. I am not going to create that road in my mind to take me from negative to worse. The second point about that is when you want to start replacing those negative roads, it's going to take time. It's going to take time, but you can do it. Just realize, hey, I'm learning new thoughts. I'm rescripting my thoughts. I'm creating new inroads in my brain. And give yourself some time and know that it's going to be difficult at first, but you can handle it. Your brain can do it. You can do it. Tell yourself, I want to have these good thoughts. I'm going to have these good thoughts. And just force yourself. I am beautiful. I am loved. And you're going to have to tell yourself 3,000 times. But after the 3,000th time, you'll believe it. You'll believe it, and your brain's like, okay, cool, I like this pathway. I like this a lot. And then it's easier. And then it's much, much easier. Something else, a small little tidbit before I go, is since I've thought of that analogy, I have started to tell myself, I'm not kidding you, road closed. If I have a negative thought, if I have a jealous thought, if I have an inferior thought, if I have a thought about a mistake that I've made in the past, something like that, I will literally tell myself, sorry, that road is closed. So I'm physically telling my brain, stop. Stop having these thoughts. We're not going any further. And it stops me in my track and it helps me feel better. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. And so in our analogy, the forest is becoming wooded again. You know, that neural pathway is closing. Every time that I don't go down that route, it closes, it closes, it closes, and that thought becomes harder to have. Okay, guys, I hope that helps. Email me with questions or whatever ideas or any other tips you have about stopping negative thoughts and creating new ones. All right, see you next week. May God's grace and peace be